It's rock and roll. We love it, and it's the last episode of the series. But I'm disappointed. But we've got a new series planned coming up in the new year. But this one's going to be a great roundup of what we've done so far, places we've been to, and we've been right across the world. It's been a rock and roll tour from UK, Philippines, India. Do I say Moscow, Siberia, and France? That's just a few of them. And the number of people we've met up with, and the number of bands we've been talking about is phenomenal, along with events. So, Russell, a lot to get through. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to pick up some of our favourite clips from the 9, 10 episodes we've done. How did it all come about? What was your idea behind this?
Well, like I think I mentioned in some of the previous episodes, just, I retired 3 years ago. In the early part of my 4 or 5 decades career in events organizing, I was in rock and roll. I worked in the music industry. I toured with a lot of big stars in those days and also met a lot of really interesting people. I'm very thankful for that. And I kept in touch with them. Like I said before, they're more acquaintances, work colleagues, but some of the guys you have a connection with and you keep in touch with. And over the years, that became more and more apparent. And as you retire, you do actually become a little nostalgic about, or you start to think about all the things you did in your life. And a lot of people, when I moved to the Philippines, said, "Oh, we want to come and visit you." So
As they were, they want to come back to the tropics and
yeah,
yeah,
so they
exotic.
they came and visit. We built our dream house here, and sitting by the pool, talking to all these people who I was getting to know for a second time, and it just came up. They said we really should do a podcast because there were some funny stories. Well, they're
Yeah,
funny,
sure.
but I do appreciate that some of the acts and some of the things were in a time that a lot of younger people probably don't know or understand, but there is still a lot of interest from our age group, if you
Yeah,
like.
absolutely. A
And,
lot of these guys were pioneering, weren't they? I think of the guys who were out in the desert in the late
oh yeah,
80s, 90s, high temperatures there. Then there was like Moscow going behind the Iron Curtain and freezing temperatures. So from -20 to +40 or something temperature range.
yeah,
And
yeah,
we featured people in different aspects of the entertainment industry, really, from musicians right through to guys who are taking bands on tour, breaking down the barriers, going behind the curtain. And we started off with an interesting aspect was the tour and production side of things, and a couple of
yeah,
great guys.
yeah. Jake and Steve Martin. I worked with Steve Martin. Uh, I must have been 1982 or three.
Yeah,
I mean, he is ageless. Looking at him now, he's really fared better than me. That's for sure.
yeah.
But but
Yes.
and Jake obviously I work with on Wham and a few other things. But these guys really are. I mean, they knock spots off of anything that I ever did in the music industry and production and tour management. There's nothing they don't know or haven't
Yeah,
done.
sure.
Like you quite aptly described it as an A to Z of bands that they've really worked with. And
Absolutely.
one thing I would say about not so much Steve maybe, but Jake, because I know him for a long, long time also, is that he's the ultimate professional. Even though he's now retired from touring, he's still quite guarded about talking about it. And I think we were all like that when we were working. We didn't want to talk about it. And I don't think on this podcast we've disrespected
I
anybody.
don't think so, no. And there's great insights. And what I took away from all of the episodes was the professionalism, the passion these guys have still got. You
Yeah.
said some are active, some are retired, but that passion is still there as they talk about what they've achieved and what they did and challenges along the way. And I think let's find out from Jake. I mean, how he got started in the business of rock and roll. Here's Jake Duncan.
I was just a local musician in Edinburgh, and at that point, this band, the Bass of Horse, they'd had one hit. They'd covered an old Gentry song in 1971 called Keep On Dancing, which made it to number 9 in the charts. The band themselves had been going since 1965 locally, and they were quite a phenomenon in Scotland. But, they still really hadn't broken that nationally. They traded a little bit off of Keep On Dancing. So I was in the music store. I was a bad drummer picking up some drumsticks. And one of the two crew guys came into the store complaining about the fact that he had to drive to Bournemouth for a gig in 2 days and the other roadie had quit. So it was just one of these light bulb moments. And I thought, they're going to hang, drawn, and quarter me this weekend if I don't turn up for my own gig. But I think there's an opportunity here. So I just said, hey, I'll do it. I'll go with you. And off I went to the Chelsea Village in Bournemouth, which is just across the way from the pavilion that Steve and I have done a few times. It's gone now. The Chelsea Village. That was me.
There's not many people who could say that they stood in for one of the biggest pop bands in the world at that time. I mean, we've talked a lot on this podcast about Wham mania, Beatlemania, all the crazy pop bands of the 80s, but Bay City Rollers, and Jake bluffed his way through to big star.
Yeah.
So
he had some great tales, didn't he? I mean, it was Beatlemania, but Bay City Roller Mania. It was phenomenal, the reaction those guys were getting, and a boy band like that, the pioneering boy bands, you might say.
So now it does work. It does fit why he would have been approached to take George and Andrew, the Wham boys, because they were an up and coming boy band, and obviously they were phenomenal success in, and then George Michael.
And that's where you come in many ways. Your connection was because of working alongside
absolutely
Wham. Yeah. And at this point, let's give a few little pointers out to what's happening later on, because Wham comes through later on with the security side. We had a fantastic chat with a guy who works on the security. So that was great insight.
There is one, Jake Duncan. I mean, I talk about Jake, and he's a friend of mine. He's very reluctant. These guys, I would say the majority of the people that we got on the podcast were really reluctant to come on. And I really appreciate that they came on because they did me a favor, and I really appreciate that. But Jake, I must say, there is another side to Jake, which I don't want to embarrass him. I won't embarrass him, but there is a story, and I won't mention who he was, but we were in Japan, and Jake was meeting up with one of the management team that were coming in from publicist or management team. I can't remember who exactly it was. And that we had a night off in Tokyo, and the guy said, "Oh, Jake, let's meet up and let's go out." So they went out, and they, as you do, they had a few drinks, and which you don't think, because Jake's always spick and span, ultimate professional, and obviously had quite a few too many, and ended up in the hotel, and went to their rooms, and their keys wouldn't work. It's happened to all of us. The key doesn't work, and you're like, all you want to do is crash out. You've had too much to drink, and they wanted to crash out, but the keys didn't work. So they went down to reception, started. The guy came up. He said, came up to their room and tried to get them into their room. No, these keys are not the right keys. And they were making a big fuss about it. Anyway, it turned up that they'd actually gone to the wrong hotel.
Oh dear. That's one of it's quite a few stories.
That wasn't mentioned, but I wanted to mention that.
You wanted to mention it, yeah.
That's a classic.
But you talk about the various people who came on. I think they were, as you said, a bit hesitant, but once we got started, and they could see we were pretty friendly. We weren't being heavy or hard or sort of diving into.
We're not journalists.
Yeah. So it was, nice storytelling over a cup of coffee or whatever, a beer. Yeah. And they all relaxed, and they came out with some lovely stories. And the other guy on at the same time, Steve Martin, I mean, he worked on so many big events and with so many big names, which we'll come up to in a moment. But what about some of